add one
Yeah.
change. Yeah.
Hi everyone. Happy New
Hey,
Week and Happy New Year.
hey, Precious. Happy New Year. How's your New Year's break? Was it good?
Yeah, was good. Traveled, met families. Good food, a lot of
Yes.
weddings. People are
Oh,
getting
really?
married. Yeah, a
I
lot
guess
of
it's a good time
weddings.
to get married because the weather is nice, I guess, right? Does it get
Yeah,
like chilly? Yeah.
yeah. Maybe just a little dry skin here and there.
Yeah.
But the weather is dry, so no rain, and we mostly do outdoor events. So it's a good time to get married. And people are on break also. People are on break, yeah, so no work.
Yeah.
So yeah, another good reason
That's
to get
awesome.
married.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah, it
Um,
was a good one.
so a lot of interesting thing happened in last couple of weeks, huh? So this is our first episode for this year, isn't it?
Yeah, this is our first
Yeah.
episode for the year. So
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe we should drop some.
um,
Right. So
all right. Let me
yeah,
maybe
so
we jump in. So let me kick us off
yeah,
here.
I think
So we're gonna start with Claude today, Anthropic. So there are lots of interesting angles to this story, but let's talk about. They launched a new product called Cowork, which is sort of Claude code but minus the terminal. We always sort of knew this. I know Claude code is sort of designed and very popular among software developers, but when I've seen designer use it and lots of other folks use it to do all sorts of stuff. That's because behind the scene, Cloud, the whole
yeah,
tool is very general purpose. I mean, even though it runs in terminal, is really good at building software. It can do lots of other stuff. So what they figured out is it's probably positioning, and then I like the name Cowork. It's a really good name. So what they figured out is that what if we just kind of rebrand it in a different way? Obviously, they added a bit more skills and functionality. So Anthropic released a new thing called Cowork, which is for Cloud Code, essentially for everything else. Okay. I do have an access to this. Let me see if I can share my screen in here, because since I'm a Mac subscriber, if you're a Mac subscriber, you already got access to this. So this is what it looks like. So it's part of you have to download the Claude Mac version. So it's sort of running on your desktop. If you've been using it, the Mac copy, you probably already have seen chat and code. I hardly use this. That's why it's empty. I always use terminal, but they've added a new tab called Cowork. This is what it looks like.
oh,
Um,
nice.
yeah, so it can. I've been reading stuff around this. That obviously it can produce content for you, set the context. But behind the scene, it follows the same stuff that you probably like about Claude, right? It's going to create a task for every prompt that you share. You're going to create a to-do list. You're going to ask you a question if it's confused about something, exactly how the Claude code does. So I just downloaded it right before the episode and I said, hey, I want to clean up some files, some stupid task, but it was interesting to see. So I said, hey, go find all the files that have been open for 6 months and delete it. Okay.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, it's sort of trivial, but still not trivial. Kind of figure it out which files have been used for 6 months and whatnot. So then you set up a context. Typically, it has lots of stuff in here. So I set up a context saying that selected is downloads folder. I want to clean files in here. Then it ran a bunch of commands that means it have access to obviously my local file system. Then give me a bunch of those files that I didn't even know that existed, and saved me a couple of gigs here. Um, it feels nice. I mean, lots of people are using this for look at my calendar and tell me how should I plan my day, what's top priority, how should I manage this conflict and whatnot. So you can literally do anything. So they have a connectors for your Chrome. You can manage connectors, which obviously allows you Google Drive, Gmail, Google Calendar, GitHub. So all this sort of baked into this. The so sort of interesting. The thing that I found even more interesting for our audience here is this whole thing was obviously built by using Claude Code. So I follow the guy who I forgot his name on Twitter, who's the lead sort of engineer for Claude Code, and he said that almost everything in Cowork is written by Claude Code, and it
That's
took
a
them it took them a couple of weeks to build this whole product.
couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I mean, one hand, you keep hearing large organizations, no, we cannot even use AI to do this. We cannot have AI
Yeah.
review our code. And here we have it. Co- Companies are building products in a couple of weeks and pushing it out. So it's fascinating to see doing that. And this is really, really good for Anthropic. I personally think this is my 2 cents adding to the story. Is they have a tremendous product, Cloud Code, which was essentially was not been utilized its full potential because the branding was Cloud Code and it was only being viewed by engineers. I think just positioning it as Cowork is just going to open whole sort of new use cases that the tool was already capable of doing. Now users going to essentially jump on and start doing that.
Yeah.
So Anthropic won OpenAI 0. It's now OpenAI's turn. It's just fascinating to see that Anthropic did sort of a better job than OpenAI on this.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, this evening I saw someone, just someone on TikTok saying, "Oh, 10 days, I mean 17 days and 17 reasons why you should stop using ChatGPT and start using Claude." And I'm like, okay, is this person paid to do this? Or and she has a lot of interesting reasons, and then how it's easier to prompt Claude, how Claude asks you questions. I find it interesting, right?
Mhm.
And then just within last month and this month, I've been doing some work with Claude. I have been impressed. I didn't give them a chance, anyways, but I've been impressed lately with the kind of response that I get, from Claude. And it's. I mean, for just writing, just text, normal output, day to day
Yeah.
AI tasks, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
I mean, I think they are good. I think they are okay. And I think this is going to be a game changer. I saw the video. I don't know if I can share it here.
I mean, just to be fair, I mean, there are some issues with this, obviously, like any other tool. But I like the simplicity of how they designed it. I like the UI UX experience of this tool. I mean,
Yeah.
rest assured, this is going to get better and better.
Yeah. And then the fact, because when you showed your screen, I see you asking it to review some files and all those things, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
so it has access to my computer.
Yeah,
You
it's
can
running
go and
locally.
then,
It's run. I think it comes with its own sort of sandbox.
oh
So it's going to
wow,
mount your files in the sandbox and do analysis. But yeah, it has access. It will ask for permissions, like a Claude. It will ask for permission. Can I access this folder? And it will
oh
start using.
nice, that's interesting. All right,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's interesting to see. It's interesting to know. Let us know what you guys think when you use these tools. Just let us know, just so we see. All right, so DeepSeek just announced that they will be launching their version 4 in February 2026. I mean, this news came out during the holiday. I think it was on 30th or 31st of December that they announced that, oh, in February, they're going to launch this new version called DeepSeek version 4. And that is going to be focused only on coding tasks, which is interesting because this guy have been, they've been doing a lot of things about, oh, multimodal, doing tasks for you, daily AI stuff and all. But now they are saying, oh, we are coming in here to, focus on only coding tasks with this version 4. And the issue with these guys, or the reason why they've been getting attention, is how cheap they can be. Remember, these models are, the DeepSeek is coming from China, right? So how cheap it can be to have DeepSeek. And if it starts coding, are the other guys going to suffer? Are developers going to move towards them? Remember that also they have a very large context window. So for developers who are working on, let's say, very large projects, they don't need to bother about the context window because the context window for
Mhm.
DeepSeek is very large, right? So, and it's cheap to use. So is this going to be a problem for Claude, Anthropic? Is it going to be a problem for OpenAI? Is it going to be a problem for, for these guys? We don't know, but then all we know is that they are launching a version 4 in February 2026.
So to use it, either you run it locally, which not many people going to do. I'm assuming this is
Yeah,
what's the size? It's a big model, right? DeepSeek. I
yeah,
don't think you can
yeah.
run
It's
locally. So you're going to use some sort of open router or some other service to do that. I think if cost efficiency is a good play, but based on, remember, we covered a story based on the usage pattern from uh, open routers, such as that users typically don't worry about that much as long as they're getting better results. So it's going to all
yeah,
boil down to, can DeepSeek perform better than Opus 4.5? Because I'm a max user for Cloud Code, let's say, and I'm their usage limits are very generous,
yeah,
very generous. I mean, I use nonstop. We are in a very crunch mode sort of building product, right? So I'm
yeah,
using
yeah,
nonstop, and I just saw it today that, hey, you're hitting the session limit. So
yeah.
yeah, I mean, I need a really compelling good reason to switch. It has to be exceptionally well, and Claude is doing pretty good there too. Yeah, we're going
All
interesting.
right.
So, but competition is always helpful. I do have another Claude story to wrap our Claude. I promise I'll not talk about Claude anymore after this. So during our break, when we were enjoying our holidays, Claude released another Claude Code update, which is 2.1. This is it's making their existing tools sort of better. So added lots of lifecycle hook. Like you now have a lifecycle hook. Essentially, you can run custom code before tool use and after tool use, or even stop. So stop is an interesting hook that allows you to run plot for longer time. So you can intercept the stop and have it go for another round. So it's lots of people are using interesting way that hook. It obviously has a hot reload skill. Skills are becoming the new thing now. And so remember, so Anthropic is sort of an R&D for every other providers right now. They come up with new concepts. OpenAI adopted it. There is another story later on today where GitHub Copilot is also using skills now. They have so lots of other sort of improvements in terms of background agents and shell jobs. But overall, they made a new release to their Cloud Code.
Hmm. All right. So I know you said that was the last last one for you, right? But I still have one more close story here.
Okay.
Don't worry. After that, do something about Google. Google are my guys. All right. So Anthropic clamps down on authorized Claude integration. I don't think I know what this is really about, but then it was all over the place during the week, right? So they said Anthropic has tightened control on how developers can use Claude, especially cracking down on unauthorized third-party wrappers. So I guess this has to do with MCPs and then how people can, make integrations with with Anthropic, Claude Code, and all these things. So they say the company has also restricted access to rival labs, example XAI, in certain environments, signaling a shift to stricter platform governance and ecosystem control. So tools that scoop Cloud's official clients by bypassing rate limits or gain unfettered automated access, they've blocked it out, right? So, and they are saying that the reason why they are doing this is because of abuse filtering, and stability and diagnosability. They said third-party layers can introduce bugs that look like model failures, and then also they are saying that Anthropic wants heavy usage to flow through their official API so that they can properly meter what is going on. So, and I think that for developers, especially for some of our listeners, right? So this sort of like impacts your work. So your integrations, you have to know the kind of integrations you're making now on Claude. Maybe you have to go read the terms and conditions, right? So
Oh,
now,
so there is a interesting bit of the story. So this is fine. This is a really good segue. You know how I was saying that how Claude is so generous about their plans.
yeah,
Max plan, I hardly ever hit the limit. So
yeah,
what these wrappers are doing is essentially but there are two ways to, just to reset this expectations. There's two ways to access these models, right? One is you
yeah,
can go through Cloud Code, that what I use. to get access to Opus 4.5. There is another way you can use Opus 4.5, which is by making an API call. Okay. Now, the API calls are more expensive than using Claude Code. Okay. So what these guys are doing is that they figured it out that instead of going API and paying more, they're building wrapper around Claude Code and using Claude Code as a mechanism to get access to the model. So that's what they're calling quote unquote unauthorized, which sort of makes sense.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
So yeah, their
API
calls are expensive.
So yeah, for economic values, yeah, they had to do that, right?
So this is a game they're playing. They made it so cheap. I mean, not relatively cheap to use Claude Code. I don't know if that they're breaking even, they're making money, because API is definitely, if you compare that with API calls, I would have paid like 10x more. But I guess that's a deployment strategy, right? That's how you hook them so they don't leave.
Yeah. All right. So the next story I have here is also a story that trended over the weekend, right? Yeah, trended over the weekend. So this is a joint statement from Google and Apple. So Google and Apple have entered into a multi-year collaboration under which the next generation of Apple Foundation models will be based on Google's Gemini models and cloud technology. These models will help power future Apple intelligence features, including a more personalized Siri coming this year. After careful evaluation, Apple determined that Google's AI technology provides the most capable foundation for Apple Foundation models, and is excited about the innovation new experiences. It will unlock the new experiences it will unlock for Apple users. Apple Intelligence will continue to run on Apple device and private cloud compute while maintaining Apple industry-leading privacy standards. So this is a joint. I don't think I have this on my notes. It's not part of my stories, but this is a joint release from Apple and Google. Now, as a non-iPhone user, I think this is a gotcha moment for us that are on Android, saying, "Oh yeah." So we are giving again, right? So I think there's a story we covered the last time in the last episode we had in December where we talked about the TPUs, right? Sort of like competing with GPUs, and we talked about a lot of things about computing power, competing with NVIDIA, how Meta is also in partnership with Google, and currently right now we are hearing that Apple is now partnering with Google. I believe that the TPU is the game changer, right? I believe the TPU is the reason why we are seeing most of these partnerships. And yeah, these guys they are getting something somewhat cheaper, right? And then also Gemini, which started slow. I mean, it started with bad, right? It was bad. It wasn't good, right? And all of a sudden,
yeah, they turned it around. Yeah, a large shape, it takes time. I mean, I think it makes sense though, right? I mean, it's which is sort of interesting because I felt like Apple had a partnership with OpenAI to convert that into. It's very confusing, but it's good to know because you know how Google pays Apple tremendous amount of money to be the default search engine on Safari browser.
Yeah.
So it's just a drops for Apple to. I don't know how this partnership is laid out. I mean, I'm sure Apple going to share some data or money or revenue with them. But this is good because Apple is way behind in building. This is what you and I have been talking about, right? What is Apple doing in this AI? We hardly have stories about Apple. Yeah.
Nobody's saying anything.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna skip some of the stories in here and go back to Stack Overflow. So Stack Overflow recently ran a developer survey. I feel bad about this guy. They're still around. Good. I never go there anymore. So anyway, they did an interesting sort of survey about developers using AI. I'm a sucker for stories like this. So it turns out they have interviewed around 49, around 50,000 software developers around. So sort of understand how they're using AI and trust. So the theme of this sort of end result is the AI usage is up, obviously. I mean, 80% of the software developers now use AI tools in their workflow in whatever shape and form. But
Yeah.
trust on those tools have drastically gone down from 40% to 29%. So,
Wow.
so essentially what it sounds like that we are using AI tools, but we're trusting them less.
Hmm.
And the positive sentiment around from 72 to 60%. That's why I thought it's interesting to cover the story. So AI is everywhere in developers' developers' workflows, but confidence is cracking essentially. And we talked about many
Wow.
reasons for that, right? I mean, you have to sort of understand how to use these tools. I mean, you have to use the plan mode properly. Prompting is still a very important thing. How you building the context is important thing. If you don't do that, you will not get better results from this tool. And I think last year we have over-indexed so much on AI and AI agents. I think everybody's sort of
Yeah.
fed up a little bit hearing AI everywhere.
Hmm. I think that's also like a very interesting one because everybody's using everybody's using AI. I mean, these days you hardly see a developer that is not using AI, right, in their workflow.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
then I mean, I still meet a lot of them who are still copying their code and pasting in ChatGPT, especially
Yeah,
around here, right?
yeah,
I
yeah.
still see a lot of them, right? But yeah, I'm also interested in the reason why the trust is going down. I really wish maybe the report had shown us the reason why the trust is going down. Then also, I
I mean,
think
it makes
it
mistakes,
also
right? I mean, the mistakes have gone down, but this code gonna make mistakes. I mean, you still have to review the generated code time to time, even though
yeah,
I've gone to a different verification level now. But
yeah,
yeah, I mean, there is a sort of a mismatch too, right? There was a point where this tool came into the market saying you don't need software developers anymore, you can replace them.
yeah.
And where the reality is standing, no, they're still important to drive these tools and verify the output. Um,
Well,
I think it's sort of the expectation level.
yeah. And I also think again, I mean, especially for developers who are listening from maybe Africa, right? I think there's also like a skill level needs um for proper integration. I don't know. I figured a lot of people don't talk about this, right? So setting up my workflow, there is a certain level of skills or experience needed for me to set up a workflow that works for me properly, right? So it's
Mhm.
not just about going in there writing the prompt, right? So when I want to start a new project, how do I integrate AI in my workflow? When I want to work on an already existing project, how do I integrate? How do I structure my folders? Where do I save my project? How do I commit to GitHub? All those things are a lot of people don't get to talk about it, but yeah, it's something. There's a skill gap that is needed in that area.
Agreed, 100%. I mean, I think also treat you have to understand. Yeah, yeah, you said it. I mean, understanding the limitations of this tool and where other tools can fit in. I mean, you cannot use Claude to as a LinkedIn tool. That's would be a horrible use case for this. You should have existing tools integrate with Claude to do that, or any coding agent. You should be spending tremendous amounts of time on planning to figure out which features to build. If you don't do that, you're not going to get good results. So
Yeah.
definitely a skills issue that I think is sort of becoming very, very important.
All right.
Which
So
which
yeah.
can I
Sorry.
cover another story which is sort of tied into this? It will be a good segue.
Okay. 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 Okay.
So
Yeah.
this is I
Thanks
obviously
for another.
follows his blog everywhere. Adi Osame, he was I think one of the developers in the Google Chrome. I'm going to share the link with you guys. So he's an engineer that I follow. His blogs, his writings are pretty solid. So I thought it's worth mentioning how he sort of wrote his new blog about next 2 years of software engineering, which just sort of ties into some of the stuff that we're talking about here, right? I mean, we are in a very interesting inflection point. I mean, the old processes are sort of disappearing and new workflow, like you said, new type of workflow are sort of going up. I mean, the old workflow is still there. Some people are still holding on to that, but the reality is you sort of have to move fast for the efficiency. And understanding the trade-offs between what to use or what not to use has become really, really important. But in reality also, and I think the jobs are becoming really, really difficult, right? I mean, obviously, we see lots of layoffs are happening here. The juniors hiring has drastically gone down. I mean, 9 to 10%, I think is a big number. The senior roles haven't moved, right? What companies are essentially figuring out is they're sort of closing the doors, essentially, a lot of them. But their expectations of building products haven't gone down, right? When you hear stories like Cowork is built in a couple of weeks, completely clear by Claude code, I mean, that sends signals to all of the companies saying what we're doing wrong, right? Why can't we build software like that? So there is a tremendous and then developer role that we talked about it, right? I mean, I don't foresee seeing, and he kind of echoes that too, which I really liked, right? That your job is taking requirement and building software is really gone. I mean, you have to sort of move to the left, right? And I think what's happening is that the specialists are sort of getting automated, right? I mean, because I mean, you have seen cases like that, right? Connect Cloud Code to your microwave, to your oven, and it's startedly downloading the Spake API and building software. I mean, imagine before that you had to get an embedded engineer to do some stuff. Like the specialized roles are sort of getting automated. But I feel like the type of engineers that are going to do really, really well in this space are who have sort of the T-shaped skills, right? You have to be good at one thing, but you're generalist across. You can do multiple front end, back end, maybe do bit of product development and project management. I think those kind of roles and multi-domain capabilities going to really, really do well. So I think I encourage you guys to sort of go through this blog. I think it's really, really worth reading and thinking through how our profession is changing.
Yeah, I think that I mean it's also important if you can listen to the episode with Harris, right? Yeah. So we talked about, I think Harris was well detailed. We talked about spec driven development where we showed the screen, how to do your planning, how just what Nilaja mentioned about T-shape developer, right? So yeah, you might need to watch that episode in case. So also now I wanted to mention something about Stack Overflow, right? So they finally have their own model, right? Finally have their own thingy. They called it the
Are you serious?
yeah. So
Oh, that should
so
have been
yeah,
the
they
top
called it
story today. Okay, go ahead. I'm
yeah,
interested.
introducing Stack Overflow AI Assistant, a tool for modern developers. So yeah, um, I think I have a link to the blog. Let me just go to the main thing, right? So yeah, they introduced their own AI assistant. They said it is integrated directly into their platform, basically to is trained on all the questions that people have answered on Stack Overflow, right? So I tried to watch some of the demos. I saw some of the demos. Basically, what it does is that when you ask a question, just the way you ask your question, oh, I'm having this bug, or you copy the error code and you paste it it shows you Stack Overflow answers to that particular bug, right? It shows you the Stack Overflow answers to that particular bug. Then now gives you like a summary, and then you can now have a back and forth conversation with the AI on how to solve that problem. So I can say, do what the answer says, come back, paste my answer, then go back, that way, back and forth until it solves that problem for me. So it's basically still Stack Overflow, but this time around, just an AI layer trained with all the Stack Overflow questions that they have. So
Awesome.
yeah, this is you know combines traditional search and then community knowledge with AI suggestion engine for faster problem solving, and then it places AI inside the developers workflow. I think developers have gone beyond this anyways, but yeah, it's still
Yes, I think
We've all waited for
Yeah,
them
I
to do
think
something.
they're smart should be building a skill or maybe MCP server that does that. Because when I'm stuck, I am in my Claude. That's my interface, Claude code. I'm asking question
Yeah.
there. I'm not going to open a browser
Yeah.
and go to Stack Overflow to ask that question.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
mean, I've thought of different things. Maybe they should maybe start creating course for beginners or something. I don't know. But it has moved beyond that. So if I'm doing something inside anti-gravity, I can ask question. I have the AI open by the side. I can just say,
Yeah.
"Oh, this is an error." It even tells me there's an error, so I just tell it to fix it. Right? I don't need to even do all those things. Right? I mean, I don't know. I think they are
I
late.
think it might be a little late. Yeah, I
Yeah, I
agree.
think they are late. Right. Anyways, so yeah, that's the other story that I have.
Why
Yep.
they're not going to the Reddit model? Sorry, I mean, I'm just trying to think. I mean, I obviously liked their product when I was using. I got lots of benefit. I would have paid for the services back in days, but
Yeah.
if for some reason it was free, and which is makes sense because it was all community driven. But
Yeah.
why not go to the Reddit route? You know how Reddit makes money by selling data to OpenAI.
Yeah, I'm thinking that maybe they have sold some
Maybe.
data to some of these platforms. I believe they have sold some data to some of these platforms, and then I also believe that maybe they are now getting less data on their platforms. So if
Oh
I
yeah, for
were
sure.
them, yeah, if I were them, I will sort of like take like a community managers approach, sort of like maybe hire a bunch of community managers, put them in a room to find a way to keep the conversation going on the platform. If people keep coming back, maybe if people keep coming back, bring people keep coming back on the platform, maybe just maybe they can keep selling the data and then keep it going. Because Reddit right now is very big. Look at Grok by Elon Musk, right?
Yeah,
And it's really thriving because of the community there on Twitter, because people are still tweeting, companies are still posting press release on Twitter. And then I just go there and I tell it, give me news for the past 1 week. And it gives me all the news for the past 1 week, right? Just
yeah,
because
yeah.
it's Twitter, the conversations are there, right? So I guess the first thing they need to do is to find a way to keep people back on the platform, bring people back to keep posting, you know,
Agree.
keep posting. Once you have
Yeah.
that conversation going, if you keep it going, then you can be able to bring back, what's it called? Sell your data or even build around it or something else.
Yeah. So I mean, I think you're right. I mean, there is obviously we talk about overall there is a huge skill gap between there are some A players that using these tools to an extreme level and getting tremendous amount of productivity. There are lots of developers who doesn't even know how to use this. So there is a need for learning there, and they can build
Yeah.
stuff around that. Yeah, I don't know. That's a hard problem. So
Yeah.
moving on to something that caught my attention this week is we are big fan. There is two common theme in our podcast mostly. We talk a lot about Claude and talk a lot about context. Two are very important anyway. So this is a story about context. You know how we keep saying context is the king, right? If you
Yeah.
don't have and we also mentioned, just to recap, I mean, I think we have seen the battle of models going in. I do 10,000 tokens, some models will come, I can do 50,000, I can do 100,000, and we can see these numbers going up. I think
Yeah.
I think some of the open source models from China, isn't there a DeepSeek one which also have a million token or something? I think Gemini has a
Yeah.
million token in Pro or
Yeah.
something. Yeah. In spite of all of that, I think there is this concept of context rot. I think beyond even certain point, model ignores. Even if it says you have 1 million tokens, your model is not reading it. It's getting confused. It's forgetting stuff. It's all happening. So there is a new research paper came out called Recursive Language Models. So essentially, the drive to build a perfect memory, essentially. So this paper talks about like a prompt becomes a sort of a persistent environment, not a single block of text, right? So what happens is that so your model essentially updates the context every time it needs to do something. So it's not a static thing that you feed in there. It's sort of a building memory like we do when we work on a task to figure it out. So it's almost like a Python REPL style. Maybe next episode we do a detailed coverage on this, because I think this is a really, really very interesting concept. So what it does is that behind the scene model operates like a Python REPL, right? So it's going to search documents. So essentially what they have done at fundamental level, instead of taking context as a allocated spot memory that the model's access to, they have turned into a sort of a search space. So instead, model goes in and model figures out what relevant documents or things I need to put it in my context before executing a task.
Okay. So I think, remember what we used to do? I think we've touched on something like this sometime last year, where we talked about how you need the exact context you need and not a lot of context.
Yeah. That's
right. And then if you
the key.
yeah. So, and if you can also remember how, companies build RAG so that it's, so you build RAG, you keep it just within the space that you want it to be. So just use enough context, not to use a lot
So
of
that
context.
what they have done with this approach is essentially turn this upside down. Instead of figuring out what to put in there before we invoke the model, it's actually using the model to say, hey, model, you go figure it out. What do you need before you execute this? So instead of you feeding the memory to, I don't know what's the best way to visualize this. So this is the model, you're feeding the memory to the model. You're saying, model, why did you act on the memory? And you recursively figure out what's the right thing to put in there before you execute your task.
Yeah.
So that solves lots of interesting problem in the sense that you don't need a large context window because you're continuously overriding it.
Yeah. So do you know what this thing just echoes, right? It re-echoes the fact that we are needing more and more planning in this whole era, in this whole AI era, right? So if you can plan, you can use AI, right? Because this is going to involve planning. So I need to know what I want to do and the kind of context I want to get. So you need to be able to think, map out like your pipeline and say, oh, I want to start from here and end here. This is what I have and this is what I'm trying to achieve. Then you now feed it just what it needs to get you to where you want to be. So this sort of like solidifies planning, and then which means that planning, people that can plan are going to win a lot in this AI age. All right, so this is my last story for today night. Yeah, so I have this story. It's a paper. This is my first time ever trying to do a paper on this on this topic.
I've
So
done
I
a bunch of
tried to
papers.
read, yeah, I tried to read this paper. I don't, but this they call it deep code. So they said it's multi-agent system for code synthesis from paper. So you know how research papers can be published, and you have 200 pages research paper, and you have 400 pages research paper, and then at the end of that research paper you are supposed to probably, you want to test it out, try your hands on what the research paper is saying. So you want to be able to implement the paper in code, right? So these guys, they call this in deep code. I saw their GitHub repo. I can share the link to the repo in the chat. They said, according to this paper, it's explaining, or it came up with a framework on how you can easily use, I think it's an MCP. Yeah, use this multi-agent framework MCP to translate research paper into functional code by orchestrating specialized roles. Some of these roles are the parser, the planner, the generator, and the tester. And then this implements academic innovations into useful softwares. So it decomposes this research, it gets a research paper, then it passes the document, it plans out the tasks from that document, and then it generates the code and then goes on to test the code for you, right? So that's what this paper came up with an MCP to do this thing. So I've just dropped the GitHub repo link if you want to check it out. And yeah, I think it's an interesting one, especially, I
I
mean,
feel like
taking,
we covered similar story, maybe, but this could be a new
yeah,
product. Yeah. This is good. This is totally good. I mean, sometimes we definitely, I mean, this would be a great example for using it with the paper I just posted before this, RLM.
yeah,
It'd be nice
yeah,
to try this tool if anyone wants to try this tool on that paper and see if you can build your own sort of recursive language model.
yeah. Right. So you have any other story? One last one before we call it a night.
I mean, all this are, we can scale, how are we doing with time?
Yeah, I think we're 40 minutes in.
Yeah, I mean, I
So we'll
think
have
this
this
is a
one for
good
one more.
time to, yeah, I mean, all other stories can wait. It's not big deal. Oh, but there's one we can mention. I mean, obviously, I'm a big fan of Karpathy, who has done tremendous work in educating us how to use LLM. So he has an interesting, this is not new. I know this project has been around. Let me share the link in here. It's called LLM Council.
Mm,
This is something that we do time to time. I know, Precious, you use that. You take feedback from output from one model and push it to another model to validate, right?
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so imagine now we all talk about this, right? Oh, Claude Code might be not good at this. Maybe Codex might be better at this. What if you build
yeah,
sort of LLM council where you could have same problem tried by multiple models? And then you get to pick which is better and use that.
yeah, yeah,
So this repo is sort of does that. He has a basic implementation of that where he has it structured such a way that you have GPT 5.1, Gemini 3, Claude Sonnet, Grok, all others sort of doing structured debate among each other. Maybe, my answer is better. Why we haven't talked about this? Maybe you're doing some summary or synopsis or research on this. This would be a great tool to do that. Because we
yeah,
all worry about this model biasness, right? This model seem to agree with you, even if even if your idea is crap. So this might be a
yeah,
great way to sort of cross-check and validate, making sure you're on the right path. So I thought that was a really, really cool tool. And it's open source.
yeah, yeah. I would like it. I would definitely like it because sometimes I'm running like I, I I'm running. I create a prompt. I give ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, Anthropic, Gemini, Perplexity. They are all working on it together. Sometimes I had to read the four of them and then come up with something, right? Yeah. So
Do you
so
feed
I would
you
definitely
then you feed each other's answer, right?
yeah, sometimes I take the answer from Claude and I say, oh, ChatGPT, this is what Claude gave me. I like it, but I like some parts of your own. Can you combine these two and give me something else? And
Yeah.
then maybe Gemini can make it, I can give it to Gemini and say, oh, this is too long. I love it, but it's too long. Can you help me narrow it down, without
Yeah.
losing its context and meaning? And then it's more concise. Gemini is more concise. Yeah.
Oh,
So
so
I do
you
that.
are you happy with the output, the end result? Usually better.
Yeah, most times by the time I combine 4 or 5 of them, the reason why I keep combining is I wasn't happy yet. So I keep doing that until
Yeah.
I'm satisfied.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
I have gone to maybe we can stop now. But anyway, the one last thing I have, so I use ChatGPT for everything else, right? Apart from
yeah.
code, and because it's become my muscle memory. I just open ChatGPT and prompt it. So there, recently updated the system prompt, which
Yeah.
was something I found it's from somewhere and updated it. That's a game changer, man. My responses
Oh
are
wow.
now on the point. Oh, dude.
Oh wow.
No
Maybe
blabbing,
you
no.
should share with
This
me.
is amazing. I'll share with you. So that system prompt. This is just crazy. I'm very, very
Oh
happy
wow.
with the responses I get now.
Oh nice. All
All right.
right. So this is where we call it a day or a night or an afternoon, anywhere you're watching us from. Thank you very much for joining us. I think we had about 10 people join us on Twitter. I don't know how many people joined on LinkedIn. I wasn't able to check. And then on YouTube, if you are here, you can just drop us a comment. You can send us a DM or anything. Thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate. And yeah, I'll see you next week.